Dun 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 dun.
Careful, too
There's
many
your
notes.
musical intro, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Floor You podcast. I am Paul Pleshuk. I'm here with my normal co-host, Sonny Callahan. Sonny, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
As always, I hope.
Good as always.
That musical intro that you had there, that is in tribute to YouTube, who will send you a copyright claim if you play Devil Went Down to Georgia at the beginning of a podcast.
If they only knew how relevant the song was, they probably would not have sent that. They'd have given us the clearance.
I think so. I think so. Nothing like just, put a little bit of the song out there. Remind people it's out there. Maybe they'll want to go listen to it again. No. If your podcast might make 5 cents, it doesn't. But if it might make 5 cents.
If I make 5 cents, I'll give it to that band, whoever it is.
Yeah. Charlie Daniels needs the money.
Yeah, really.
Clearly, at this point, he's at the end of a struggling music career, and that was frustrating. They sent a copyright claim from YouTube that we had that intro music from Charlie Daniels. Whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke at first, but they were dead serious.
Yeah. So you got us singing, and I think that's what it'll be from now on. We'll just karaoke a song in there, and
I don't think they want that.
and the listenership drops to nothing.
Oh, well.
Oh, shoot. So how was your weekend? Got back from the FCICA, okay, I see.
Yeah, had a good time at FCICA. Got to see a lot of people, and came home, had a weekend with the family, and got back on the road Monday morning, back over to my favorite place in the world, Dalton, Georgia. So
that is
just got home from there.
That is definitely a place.
I tell you what, it is a place.
That's beautiful area, though. Beautiful area, good people.
Especially this time of year, it's not a bad drive going over. Nice and pretty, good people, seeing customers, selling glue. What do you do?
Yeah, you're a little closer than I am. It's about a 15-hour drive for me.
It feels like 15 for me. It's only 3.5. Because I have to go through Atlanta, so it could be 15 hours. Just depends on how I hit it.
Well, unlike that trip when we had the Flooring Essentials event down in Charlotte, that was supposed to be about a 18-hour trip, but I spent 5 hours just parked in traffic.
Yep.
Ugh.
Well, I don't even live in Atlanta, but I got me one of those peach passes for Atlanta for the express lane. $30 round trip through Atlanta. It's worth every penny of it.
Yeah, I got the iPass for Chicago. Same thing. Don't have to pay cash at the toll booths.
Yep, just go through it.
They should pay me to drive through that city. Yeah, I didn't. I pretty uneventful weekend. Of course, I told you off before we got started. Back is shot again, so
that's never good.
No. So I pretty much just stayed on my back. Luckily, it's football season.
Get in a recliner.
At least there was one football game to watch.
What team do you root for?
Oh, yeah, that'd be the Packers.
Packers.
Yeah, let's go, Pack, go.
Go.
The Badgers had a game, but they didn't play, so
yeah, they forgot to show up for that one, didn't they?
Yeah, they thought it was mail it in Saturday, and
that's a shame. They were looking so good.
Yeah, so as it works now, they probably will beat Ohio State, and you'll just look back and think, oh, what the season could have been.
What it could have been.
That's
the thing. That's the thing with these college football games. You got to keep these kids up for every single game, because if you lose one, you're out.
Oh, yeah. You said the same thing when I jinxed you for Georgia.
I know.
No intention on.
But that's what you get.
But you don't have a whole college football savings. I mean, most colleges can't afford to pay their players that much.
Yeah, Well, in California, they can.
That's true.
They're paying them out there now.
I think they have to. So other than that, we had a call last night. We had the ISCRC Inspector Division meeting. That went well.
We did. That's an hour of my life I'll never get back.
That's very true. Luckily, it wasn't several hours, but getting that going, I think it's one of the things we're really moving forward uh, with all the work that's gone into the ISCRC in the last 3-4 years and getting everything going the right direction. It's good to get a inspector division. It's good to get that moving forward. You've got the substrates class that you're putting together, reviewing the exam and reviewing the class itself. You put together a dream
It's
team.
needed. It really is needed. It hasn't been looked at for a while, and for us at NAFCT, we've been tweaking it a little bit to kind of keep up with it, but we have to keep the curriculum close enough for the exam. So now that we have an opportunity to go through the exam, I think it'll be good. What I like about the IICRC is the TAC chairs and vice chair, which is Seth Pavarnik. We get to pick who we want on our committees, as you know. So I was able to send out some text messages and emails last night and got a strong group of people ready to go through this thing and hopefully be relatively painless.
Yes, and hopefully YouTube doesn't pick up on my ringtone there and give us another.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because my phone was not on vibrate.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I think that with what you've got, and that's one of the reasons that Seth Pavarnik was one of our first and going to be a regular guest on the show. Is we have worked with him for a long time, and he is incredibly knowledgeable, especially regarding concrete substrates. I think that's probably his most specific area of expertise and
Right.
prep of concrete. But to have you and Seth chairing that committee, that's pretty impressive body of knowledge there.
I appreciate that. I think we'll do a good job, and like I said, some of the people we brought in are just some of the best in the industry. So what we tried to do is we tried to get representation from manufacturers, representation from installation, from installers, and then an inspector in there. So even though you're going to be involved in it, but we still wanted another inspector. So I'll run through the names. I think it'll be okay. We have Sim Chrysler, who, if you don't know Sim Chrysler, we've mentioned his name on here a couple of times. He is just the smartest guy in the industry. We got Andy McWilliams, who's an installer we met through the Flooring Installers of America page, but we're going to get him involved in this. We have Bob Bates from Tarkett. We have Graham Capobianco from Capri. Oh, it's called something else now. Lidditz Flooring. It's called Lidditz Flooring
that's
now.
right.
And Don Jewell from Lobavaco, who's been on the show. Seth, who we mentioned, has been on the show. And, who am I missing? Is that it? I think that's it. We have one more pending, so maybe we can shame Kevin Phillips from Novalis to be on here, but he hasn't answered me yet, so we'll see.
Shame him into being on here. I like that. Put it out in the air. If he wants to be involved, he's welcome to.
He's welcome. Even though he doesn't speak our language, he speaks English.
Yeah, well,
British.
A form of it.
Yeah.
Aluminium. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get that and we'll get this going, and we can update the class, and then we can have an ISSI class, the first quarter of 2020.
Yeah, I've actually got it worked out. Just got to pick the dates. We're going to have one for sure beginning of the year in Las Vegas at the Global Resource Center for the ISCRC. So that's the world headquarters of the ISCRC.
Very nice.
And I say world, kind of funny, but it really has become a wide-ranging organization. Japan, Australia, the UK, Canada. That is a different international then, because obviously Canada, considers itself another country. So just teasing Canadians, just teasing.
The other thing we can talk about, the other thing we're doing in February of 2020.
Yeah, so, you want to put that out there right away, huh?
I'm going to put that out there. So what we're going to do, we don't have the dates finalized yet, but we are going to be offering, NAFCT is going to be offering a 3-day Heat Weld and Flash Cove certification course. and we're going to hold it in Orlando. We got a couple of places we're trying to lock down right now, but probably going to only be 20 to 25 people. But we've got a couple of top guys in the industry who are going to come in and teach the class. Mike Pigeon from Ropey is going to be heading that up. He's going to bring in some helpers from some other manufacturers, and we're going to just have hands-on. We're going to have book work, and if you can't do it when you're done, you won't get the certification. So it's really going to have some meat and some teeth to it, and I'm really looking forward to this class. I think it's going to be something that's going to take off.
Yeah, this was something that you set up for the Flooring Essentials event that we did last year.
Last year.
Time flies. And it was really well received, a lot of interest in it, and we've looked at trying to set that up as a certification and how to do that. But you've gotten some enthusiasm when you were at FCICA, right? You had talked to some different manufacturers and
right. I mean, that's really an issue that we're seeing in the field is there's just not enough qualified people for heat welding and flash cove, and the two go hand in hand. And if we can develop a certification course to train installers to do that, I think it'll be beneficial for a lot of people, both manufacturing side and the installation community.
And I think that's kind of one of those advanced certifications that we look at doing, right? We've got the inspection stuff. That's advanced certifications. You need industry knowledge before you can consider moving into that area.
Right.
You really need to have industry knowledge before you're out doing flash coves. That's a commercial setting. That's more often than not, that's a large installation generally. I mean, that is an advanced skill that's really going to give you the ability to generate more income within your business as an installer and allow you to bid some of those big jobs that maybe right now you're worried you don't have the skill to do, right? That you haven't been taught how to do it, know how to do it properly.
To do it properly, that's the key. That's the key. And you know what? I met with I won't say who, met with a major manufacturer this week, and that was one of the things we were talking about is they're having issues with people calling them because they're bidding these jobs. Bless you. Did you get me on the microphone there?
I turned away, but it's always three times. I don't know. That's three.
There's a mute button on there. You can just mute it.
I got to work on that. Sorry.
So, but they're getting calls where people are selling the floors as specialty flooring. Oh, they get the job and realize they don't have anybody who can do it. And I'm not just talking about, a bathroom. I'm talking a specialty installation. And someone could almost name their price and go up there and do it for these people because they don't have anybody to do it. So that's what we're trying to offer. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. When you get a certification, a CFI, trained certification, NWFA, whatever, it doesn't mean automatically you get $2 more, you get $3 more. It means you can put yourself in a position to where you can make more. And you have to market yourself to be able to show that you can do that.
Well, and to really be able to put yourself in the running for those large installations, because obviously the more the square footage you're putting in, it impacts the per square foot price, but it impacts the amount of jobs that you need to get in a given month, in a given week, to be able to make ends meet. And that's something we had, we're going to tie it in here with that, is that we had put out a Facebook post for questions. If anybody's got some questions or if they want some things discussed, go to Floor U Podcast on Facebook. Email me at paul@floorupodcast.com. You can reach us on Twitter. You can reach us Floor U Podcast
on Facebook,
Instagram, and
yep.
Facebook.
Yep.
We put that out this week, and somebody talked about bidding jobs and getting jobs. And I guess for the purpose of this discussion, we were going to kind of approach that from a marketing sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things that most companies look at is how you can offer more services to the customers you already have, right? So it's expensive to go get new customers. It's expensive for an installer. It takes time for an installer to reach out to different retailers, to go find different builders or different sources of work. And the more that you can offer the ones that you already have, the more work you can get and the more valuable you are to them, right? You become that one stop. So I think that the Heat Weld and Flash Cove, I think that that's one step in that process. That you're the guy, and guess what?
Absolutely agree.
If they get a guy that really knows how to do these things, they're going to be less likely to move on and try somebody that's coming in at a lower price because they don't know if they're going to offer all these services to them. They don't know if they're going to be able to do the diverse types of jobs that these, especially the commercial contractors, run into.
Right. Well, in larger cities, there's some people who maybe not 100%, but 75% of their job is all they do is go around and heat weld for all the different shops in the city, in larger cities. So that right there tells you there's a need for it. So
still hard on the knees, but not nearly as hard on the back.
No, it's great. I can't wait to do this. I think it's really gonna take off. The last time, when we tried to do it at the Flooring Essentials class, it ran over. It should have been twice as long as we did it.
Oh yeah.
All these people were down on the floor. It was just, I don't know. It was way better than I thought it was going to be. So I'm excited about it.
Ran well into the evening, so we'll be sure. That's why we were talking 2 days and trying to do it in 2 days. And the idea is that with most of the classes we offer, it's an academic test at the end. You take a written test, you give the right answers, you pass. And this is going to be different. So this is going to be our baby. This is how we're going to look at doing things in the future, moving forward. And that's going to be that performance testing when it's done. You're going to have to get in there and you show our reviewers that you can physically do it correctly in order to be certified.
To get the certification. People will fail.
And that's way more valuable to the people that look for certification, right?
That's it. It's gonna have some teeth to it. It's gonna be something that we know that when you leave our class and we're done with you, you know how to do it. So if we need to spend a little bit extra time with you, we're happy to do it. That's why we kind of do these smaller classes, 20 to 25 people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you can't bring in, you can get the academic part of it out to as many people as you want to, but we're only going to have so many workstations, platforms set up for people to take the hands-on performance testing part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's really what's going to take up the time and make sure that the attendees feel comfortable when they leave. They not only have the knowledge to do it, but they've done it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This part of it, we talk about NAFCT a lot. This part of it's really Sonny's baby. He's putting it together and coming out of the installation community and having that experience there, we really have got an amazing class put together. But from an inspection side of it, man, when you really understand, and yeah, you can go to that first class. I'll get down on the platform and do some work, and you guys can say, yeah, it ain't that easy, is it, dummy? There you go.
No, but you know what? When you go look at something, you'll understand why something failed or why something looks wrong. They did this and they should have done that. And I think that brings value to the inspector as well. So,
absolutely. Absolutely. The amount of, and these are claims that you would go look at that are very involved and very high dollar, just like the installation is very high dollar. I mean, if it's done wrong, that's an expensive claim. So
you don't want to make a mistake in an operating room. No, every
even
minute
on the floor
that thing is down, you're getting back charged. So yeah, it's tough. You want to make sure you do it right.
Yeah, we kind of had a story about that. I've actually got it here because we weren't going to talk about it, but may as well bring it up when we talk about that and the liability that comes with something like that. This was a hospital. Let me see, Kingsway Park Place. Oh, St. Louis. BJC Healthcare seeks a $150 million lawsuit over buckling floors in the new hospital towers. $150 million lawsuit. The gist of the lawsuit is that the flooring has put the building behind by 2 years. That's the dollar number that they're going with. But really it's a flatness issue. It's a subfloor prep issue. And the
I teach a
liability.
class. I got a class they can go to if they want to learn
Right.
about that. My
I
guy
know some,
Seth's pretty good.
I know somebody if they need an expert witness, I'd be happy to come in.
Yeah.
We could talk about that. We should talk about expert witness sometime on the show. Not today, but
Yeah.
that's
Well, I
all
tell
we,
you, it goes with the story that you just mentioned, something that we saw when the recession hit in 7 and '08 and even 9. Some people who did retail work tried to venture out into commercial work
Mhm.
and they got in over their heads. I'm just curious if this may be one of those because, it takes a few years for it to come to fruition. But, we saw a lot of mom and pop and Main Street, what we call them Main Street retailers get in trouble because they got in over their heads.
Oh, definitely. Once the economy slows down, you try getting your hands on any job you can get, and that brings in the bidding process. And we talk about bidding the installation. And I heard it from Bill Zodfeld, who we're trying to get on here. He's another inspector, a good friend of ours, but he was the first one to say it to me. I don't know where he got it from, but he always said, "You know what? I never lost a dime on a job I didn't take."
That's right.
And while it can be pretty stressful when business is slow and not sure where the next job's coming from, that's also a really bad time to be found liable for a massive claim.
Right.
that could be business ending.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and from a marketing standpoint, so if we dig deeper into the marketing part of it and bidding a job and getting jobs, we're going to have some installers on. We'll talk more about that from their perspective. I think marketing is a more all-encompassing angle to look at it. Where do you get the jobs? And I think marketing also comes into price, right? And I think that that's one thing that we see a lot in the installation community is that most of the people, I don't know most, but a large number of the installers are craftsmen, right? That's what they are. They're craftsmen. They know how to put in a floor. They know how to make it look nice when they're done. And they know how to, the good ones, the real craftsmen know how to take a complicated project and make it look beautiful when they're done, right? It's an art. The challenge is that it's not that many that are really entrepreneurs and business people. And so what then happens is, what do you sell on? What are you marketing yourself on? What are you selling on? And the person that doesn't have a deep knowledge of business, the easiest thing in the world to sell on is price. And that's why there hasn't been a large price increase in installation in 50 years, right? We're square foot price wise charging a lot less today than they were charging in the 60s and 70s. If you adjusted for inflation, a lot less, right?
Right. Well, let's
So,
go back to our first guest, Ken Ballin.
mhm.
I mean, he markets everything from his sunglasses to his bald head to his truck to him to his, the last thing you learn about him is his installation skills. You
Yeah,
know, I mean, he's all about everything else. And then, oh, yeah, I install. So, and he's able to get a value for that because he shows that he's a professional and the installation is part of him being a professional.
absolutely. He's got it out there, but that's branding, right? He's very good at branding.
Mm-hmm.
People recognize his brand. The like you said, the bald head, the white sunglasses. He's got a
Say, I may
logo
still have mine. I do.
that you recognize.
Look at that. There we go. Got mine on. See?
Yeah, I got mine, but bad glasses. Ugh.
He
Give
should
that
have
to the
stock
kids.
in white sunglasses because people just buy them just to mess with them.
Well, he should put his logo on the side and sell them on his website.
He should. He should.
But I was telling Sonny before we got started, one of the things you have to do is really educate yourself. And there's all sorts of books out there. I haven't read this one in a while. I remember it was excellent. This one here is the Marketing Warfare,
Right.
right? And goes into marketing from a defensive point. How do you keep the jobs you've got? How do you keep the sales you got? From an offensive standpoint, how do you go out and get more work? It goes into flanking warfare and guerrilla warfare, right? So it's concepts. And that's what you find in most of the marketing books. It's concepts on ways to take your knowledge of your business and your industry and apply those concepts to your business. Another one that I really liked was Selling the Invisible. And this one, again, it's been a while since I read it, but it went into talking about how, at least I think this was the one, how, remember Sizzler? Wasn't Sizzler that they sold the sizzle? Remember the advertisements with all the steaks that came out and all they were doing was just playing the sizzle of the steak on the hot plate?
Yeah, I think so. That or Chili's.
Yeah, this was a long time. This was pre-Chili's. I think it was Sizzler. But it's talking about marketing things that aren't marketing concepts that aren't necessarily related to, hey, look, I do a great job. Marketing things like how you clean up after the job, or how professional you show up to the job, or like Ken Ballin marketing how his truck and what it looks like and how he maintains the inside of it and the professionalism that he has. There's marketing concepts that are very easy to understand, but that are easy to apply to whatever you're doing.
It's funny you say that. I don't mean to cut you off, but I was talking with someone. I'll leave the names out, but I was talking with them, and they had interviewed somebody this week, and they just felt like, the interview didn't go bad, but it didn't go great. There was something odd. He goes, you know what I really like to do? And this was for an inside position. He goes, I'd really like to go see him on the job site, and let me go look inside his truck. That'll tell me what kind of person he is. I said, you're absolutely right. It's going to tell you exactly what kind of person he is. So
I need to keep my car cleaner if people are going to start doing that.
Well, this goes back, and I think I've mentioned it before on here. I was trained by an old school guy. There's no doubt about it. Doug Friel was old school. I mean, if it was 3 years before I made a seam, it may have been 4 years before I made a seam. I mean, he just took his time and did it right. But the biggest thing with him was, I couldn't wear ripped pants. I wore a golf shirt, tucked it in, either shorts or jeans. But what that did is no matter where we worked, we would move up the ranks to be the top crew just because of our appearance. I mean, we did good work. It was
the appearance of professionalism.
Exactly. We weren't any better than anybody else. We did good work. We are nice. So we ended up doing a lot of homeowner work just because, just because of our appearance, and we knew how to settle things down. He was a store manager for a long time, and we knew how to manage the homeowner's expectations, because that's a completely different show than what we're talking about here. But it was just the little thing. He kept his truck clean. He didn't let me wear ripped pants. We always wore golf shirts tucked in, and guess what? We got a premium for what we did, because we would go and say, we're not touching that for, you got to add $2 a yard to it. And they would do it just because they would want us to do it.
Well, I think that's one concept that I learned early on in business. In our first episode of the podcast, I talked a little bit about working at an appliance shop. And, you look at the appliance business and the changes that have happened over the last 25, 30 years, and you look at flooring and installation, and there's definite similarities. And we were already in a point where appliances were at Sears, and Sears is now gone. Sears and Best Buy and Home Depot and all these places that were just selling on price, right? That's all that they sold on. And I went into this appliance shop, 4 employees had been there. I think they opened in the 1930s or 1940s and had always done business a certain way. But they had a clientele that would pay extra for the appliances based on the service. And it doesn't matter what business you're in, there's people that only shop for price, There's people that look for a good combination of price and extras, or price and quality. And then there's people that simply look for the most expensive person because they equate price with ability and quality. Yeah.
Quality, right.
And that comes into installation as well in a large way. If you're going, most installers market and sell on price, right? You go into carpet cleaning, same thing. You got your per room guys. You've got your people out there that are just, hey, we're the least expensive. No one's going to beat our price. You've got some people that just charge a little bit more than that. And you've got some people, when I did carpet cleaning, I was absolutely the most expensive person in our area. And the minute I found somebody else was charging more than I was, I raised my price. And every single time. Because my clientele expected that. You can't say that you're the best at what you do and charge the least amount of money, because people won't believe you.
They're not going to believe it.
It's possible, but they're not going to believe it. But the difference is, when you build a business on price, you have, at the low end, you have no loyalty. The only thing you have when you build your business on price is the loyalty to your price. And the minute somebody else comes along and charges less than you do, see you later, they're less expensive.
Right.
It takes longer. It's more work to build a business based on quality at a reasonable price, right? I mean, you can't charge 10 times what somebody else does. You won't get enough clientele. It takes longer to build that business on that quality at a higher price. But those customers are customers for life, because they didn't choose you. The only way you lose those customers is if somebody convinces them they can do a better job, or if you don't deliver. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
So
you don't deliver. That's usually the main one. They're not going to go out and go shopping. And that's where the value is as a business owner. For sure.
That's absolutely right. And customer service after that, right? If you're an installer, you know there's products you don't use because you feel that manufacturer didn't stand behind their product. You feel that you replaced a floor because that manufacturer used you as a scapegoat. And that happens sometimes. But you also know which manufacturers didn't do that.
I tell you right now, I have one specific customer that the only reason I have this business is because we do things together that have nothing to do with adhesive. I help them with all their technical. I help them with their complaints. Has nothing to do with adhesive. It has to do with helping each other. They help me, so I'm going to help them. Has nothing to do with what I'm selling.
Oh, relationships are absolutely a huge part of building that quality-based business. You find people that have the same business concepts as you do, and you find you have a lot in common with them. You'll end up working together with them, and you'll end up golfing with them. You'll end up, hunting with them, shooting with them, whatever you do in your free time, protesting with them. I don't know. But yeah, it becomes I never really liked the words networking, because that kind of has a connotation of just finding people that can help you, right? We've always tried to, with NAFCT, we've always tried to partner with people. What can we do for you? And then they're asking, what can we do for NAFCT? Right. And it's that relationship where it's actually looking out for the benefit of the other partner, right?
The other party. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that kind of, you summed it up right there when you talk about NAFCT is one, we reach out to try to work with other groups and organizations where most other organizations kind of want to keep their information to themselves. So we're trying to expand. If you've got something that you do better than me, I've got something I can do better than you. Let's share it. Let's make the industry better. So,
and the concept that a rising tide lifts all boats, right?
That's it.
If we make the industry better, we're all going to be better off for it.
Absolutely.
And that's what the podcast is. Hopefully people in their free time or when they're at the jobs, they got some time to listen to it. And if you can pick up a few things, great. And if you get a few laughs, fantastic. If you think we're idiots and just listen to be mad at us, well, I'm okay with that too.
No, that's Paul. You can hate Paul. Don't hate me.
Sure. Why not? Why not? I have broad shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a bad back from carrying the show anyway. Whatever.
Yeah, no, that's it. That's how you hurt yourself. You say that, but I'm about to fall asleep right here. So it's one of those days. I've had a long week, and it's only Thursday.
Yeah.
I guess that's why we do these on Tuesdays normally, so we're a little bit fresher.
Well, I think it's easier when we have a guest too because it's someone else to pick up the conversation. But we also did have another. So to segue from our boredom, not really. That's an interesting conversation. But we'll have somebody on. We've talked. There's questions about bidding and how you bid a job. I think the logistics of bidding a job, what's included, what's not, right? So we need to get into that somewhat and talk about, um, you know, someone comes and tells you there no floor prep is ready, the subfloor is ready for installation. You, how often is that true, right?
Yeah,
You
no,
need
no
to.
floor prep needed.
It's an all encompassing bid has got to be the most and a thorough bid. I think people will see a thorough bid and have explanations for why you're bidding this. That's a hell of a lot better for most people than you coming in and saying, "Oh, yeah, well, I'm here now, but I can't put this floor in because I got to do $1,000 worth of floor prep before I do that."
Right.
Right? When I was in the carpet cleaning business, I went out and I quoted every job, every single house, every single business. I went out, I looked at it, I talked to the consumer and gave them an exact quote to clean their carpet. I never, unless it was a repeat customer that kind of understood the process, I never gave a price over the phone, ever. And it's that got to be that way with installation. It's got to be the point that, listen, unless I know what I'm going over, the condition of it, I can't give you I can
Yep.
give you a ballpark. People don't like ballparks. If you say it's $500 to $1,000, what do they hear? Well, it's $500.
Five
Cool.
hundred bucks.
See when you get here, I'll have $500 ready for you.
And what did the installer hear? A
A
thousand.
thousand.
There's your
Exactly.
disconnect right there.
And then if you come out and it's 1,500, oh, they're going to be angry,
It's gonna go crazy. Gonna be bad.
even
No,
if it's justifiable.
and I get it, and that's why I would never want to do retail. Just because, what are you gonna do? Go on everybody's floor and take it up and see what's underneath there, and there's so many challenges to doing that. God bless the people who do it, because I don't want to.
Well, sure. But even going out and looking at it and saying, listen, I'm feeling some unevenness just when I walk on it over here. I'm not going to know exactly how much prep I've got to do on it prior to installation, but there's going to be floor prep and give them a price. At least if you're giving them a range on the prep, then on the rest of the installation, you're closer, right? So if you're going out, you give them a written bid for the installation, and it says, all right, the installation is exactly this. And it explains that covers the adhesive and that covers the material, right? Here's how much for the trim. Floor prep is this. I know I've got floor prep, but I don't know how much. Explaining that to a consumer prior to installing the flooring will give you a loyal customer.
Oh, sure, sure. Well, we said it before, and we can do an entire show on managing people's expectations, because the people who can do that have the best customers, because
Oh,
they're
agreed.
able to walk them through it, tell them what to expect. Because what any consumer doesn't want is surprises, right?
Anything you tell somebody before the job's an explanation. When you tell them after, it's an excuse. That's
Yeah.
how people see it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
we've got another subject here that we're going to go on to. We got about
Yeah.
20 minutes. Should we try to cover that in 20
Yeah. Go
minutes?
ahead. Let's do
All
it.
right. So we were talking before we were talking yesterday actually about litigation and frivolous lawsuits or lawsuits that could even appear that way, but the legal world is different than the real world in a
Mhm.
sense, right? You see something happen and you see it in black and white. You see absolutely this is right, this is wrong. But from a legal standpoint, there's all these concepts of responsibility and concepts of warning people. And as we got talking about it, Sonny remembered an adhesive manufacturer that had gone through a case, and here's basically what the case was. I'm going to read a good chunk of the beginning. Then we're going to kind of jump through it because it's about 24 pages.
Yeah.
Should I read the whole thing, Sonny? Do you want to take a nap?
No. No, but what we're doing, we're not trying to single out any manufacturer or product, but we're trying to show you how these things can happen and what you need to do to protect yourself. That's the meaning behind this. So we're going to try to leave everybody's name out, but if something comes out, we're not trying to single them out. We're trying to educate other people so it doesn't happen to them.
No, absolutely, because there's plenty of blame, and this is a real tragic case. Really, it's not this. We like to joke around about some things, but this affected people's lives. It affected the company's life. They're out of business now. It affected the installers' lives because they had to go through a very serious recovery period from it. It affected the homeowner. It's really is a tale about a cautionary tale about how things go bad and how it can be the responsible party. You may not agree with who the responsible party is, and everybody deserves some responsibility, but in the legal system, it's not always as clear cut as what we would expect it to be.
Not always what you think, for sure.
So this was an appeal case, and I'm not even going to say where it was out of. I'm sure if you're good with Google, you can figure it out. Am I going to use the name of the plaintiffs, or should I skip the name of the plaintiffs?
You can do that. Mm-hmm.
It is on the internet. It's public record.
It's public record. Yeah.
So here it started out. It was early September 1998. The plaintiffs, and I'll use their names, just not every time, were hired as carpet installers, went to the retailer to pick up materials, and they were installing a carpet in the basement of a home. When they arrived at the retailers, they found the roll of carpet and 2 cans of adhesive on the deck. Both cans contained, am I using the name of the adhesive? Yeah. Both cans contained M280, a highly flammable adhesive manufactured, blah, blah, blah. Neither installer had ever used it before. They loaded the materials into their van and drove to the home. Once they arrived, they examined the basement, which consisted of a kitchenette, separate storage area. They moved the refrigerator from the kitchen into the doorway. In preparation for the installation, they noticed a water heater inside the storage area, but its presence didn't cause them concern. The old carpet had been removed. The installer was Mr. Roach and Mr. Faulkner. Began spreading the M280 on the basement floor. Mr. Faulkner was outside cutting pieces of the new carpet to install. Mr. Faulkner brought a piece of carpet to the basement and set it on the floor. They both described that they heard a click followed by a whoosh or a boom as the vapors of the M280 ignited, and the force of the blast hurled Mr. Roach across the room. The floor where Mr. Roach applied the M280 had erupted into flames, and the basement quickly filled with smoke. As they got up and began making their way towards the steps to exit the basement, a second blast again knocked them both off their feet. The flames from the second blast traveled up the basement stairwell, blew out a kitchen window, and set a neighbor's tree ablaze. Wow. The second blast also knocked Miss Biondo, who was in the dining room on the first floor, through 2 rooms and out the front door of her home onto the sidewalk. In a struggle to escape the basement after the second blast, Mr. Roach tripped over a roll of carpet on the floor and fell down into the burning glue. Mr. Faulkner, seeing that Mr. Roach was lying face down in the glue and was no longer moving, pulled his shirt over his face and ran to where he thought Mr. Roach was. Mr. Faulkner finally found Mr. Roach and dragged him up the stairs and out of the basement. Both men then ran outside where the neighbor helped extinguish their burning bodies with water from a garden hose. Holy crap, right?
That's as real as it gets. That's tragic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And talk about heroic actions. I mean, the installer that was up could have been in a panic and just ran out of that building, but he went and got his partner and dragged him out. I mean, no matter what the whole case works out to, that's a heroic act, and that is a life-altering event. There's no question. And that goes into that. They suffered severe burns, underwent months of hospitalization, reconstructive surgery, and rehabilitative therapy. And they both filed action against the adhesive manufacturer. There were several claims against, it was several parties that were involved, but most of this is involving the litigation against the manufacturer of the adhesive. At the close of all the evidence, the trial court directed a verdict in favor of the manufacturer with respect to the claim of punitive damages, but allowed the appellee's claims for compensatory damages to go to the jury. So the court said, not a problem. The jury, but they could ask the jury. The jury thereafter agreed on a $5 million verdict in favor of Mr. Roach and a $3 million verdict in favor of Mr. Faulkner. And then the manufacturer moved for a judgment notwithstanding of the verdict or a new trial. The court denied the new trial, and this is the appeal. So that was the summary of the first court case. So what it goes into from there is, as an overview, had a lot to do with labeling, right? So they're talking about the first error. So when it's appealed, you have to get assigned errors in the case. There's had to have been errors in order to appeal it. So
for the liability, for someone to be liable.
So the attorneys for the manufacturer in appealing said these were the following errors. And they said that they failed to introduce sufficient evidence from which reasonable minds could conclude that the manufacturer owed a duty to warn, that they breached that duty to warn, and the breach of duty approximately caused injury. So it wasn't our job to tell them. We told them. It wasn't our fault. I mean, that's the basis of it. It's all legalese. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not gonna pretend to be one here, but I've read enough of these to have some idea of what's going on. The duty to warn, the manufacturer first argued it had no duty to warn of the potential that the M280 might explode. So now we're talking about, and it's going into the differences in the case between the difference between a flash fire and an explosion. And they did find
flammable, extremely flammable, and explosive are three different categories for that.
Okay, so that you've seen those before. That's gotcha. So they brought in a expert witness, fire investigation. They found that it did explode, that it wasn't just a flash fire, but there was an explosive aspect to it. And they get into labeling. Now, I'm going to come back to this part because what the labeling really revolved around was when the adhesive initially came out, the label said for outdoor use only. And in 1984, they replaced that with open all windows and doors, use only with cross ventilation, use only with good ventilation. Oh, the cross ventilation was replaced with use only with good ventilation. Then in 1996, they again altered the label. They removed the warning instructions regarding preventing vapor buildup with using with cross ventilation, extinguishing pile lights and other sources. With the warning, vapors may the warning vapors may ignite explosively was also removed from the 1996 label, and the instruction "do not use indoors because of flammability" was added to the side panel. Pretty clear cut at this point, right? They're saying, "Hey, don't use it inside."
Yep.
It seems like on first look,
or near a pilot light.
Yeah, right. So, but they added in the instructions, "do not use indoors." That seems pretty clear. They had some supporting evidence. There was naphtha in the adhesive, and that MDS said keep away from heat, sparks, flame, extinguish pilot lights, cigarettes, turn off other source of ignition, and to use and all vapors. Extinguish pilot lights, cigarettes, and turn off other sources of ignition prior to use and until all vapors have dissipated. Use explosion-proof ventilation to prevent vapor accumulation while in use. So they're saying that in the background there was plenty of evidence that there was an explosive nature with this, as well as a flash fire. Right. So they had removed some of these, but they also put it on the side panel, and that's an important part of it, that they put it on the side panel for outdoor use only. They had an expert come in. The expert talked about I don't want to take too much time. I could read the whole thing. It's interesting. So
let's just move. We'll skip past that and go to what the installer was saying. I think that's critical.
All right. So yeah, they had an expert come in that said that it was an outdoor adhesive. Outdoor adhesives don't necessarily mean flammable. The installer. Sure, make me skip ahead now. I had an order. So they did have an expert in that said that it was. Well, there's the part I'm looking for. Because we talked about the side panel. I thought it was after that. They talked about putting that on the side panel. So they had a warning on it about flammable. And then I want to make sure I get to this part. Right, adhesive for the installation. Okay. Mr. Roach testified that he read the front panel of the M280 can, including the statements all-weather outdoor adhesive, which the expert described to say that was outdoor adhesive doesn't necessarily mean flammable, but it means that it can be used in it's designed to withstand weather conditions, rain, snow, freezing, heat. He testified he read the front panel of the can, including the statements all-weather outdoor adhesive, extremely flammable, danger, vapor harmful, and can cause flash fires, and flammable mixture.
He read that.
He read that.
This is the installer, right?
Yes. Mr. Roach stated that he thought the M280 all-weather outdoor adhesive was appropriate because he and Mr. Faulkner were installing indoor-outdoor carpet in the basement. Mr. Roach testified he understood the warnings on the label to mean the M280 would ignite if exposed to open flame. He stated, however, he did not derive from the warnings any appreciation for the risk that vapors from the M280 might travel to distant ignition sources and ignite or explode. And here's a point to make, and this is just a general point. When you have something that's flammable, it means it's evaporative. You get gases of it in the air. Those gases, when you're in a basement, and this is just FYI for those that don't know, they're heavier than air. So they start to fill up from the bottom up. If you almost picture the basement like a bucket, as they evaporate off, they just build up along the floor and they get deeper and deeper and deeper. So it takes that whole basement. So when they heard that click,
that was
and then a whoosh and a boom, that click was the pilot light for the water heater that was mentioned. That's all it took. And once those flames ignited, everything in that room went up in flames, and I'm guessing the bucket exploded, although I don't think it's clear in here what the actual explosion was. Right. I'm guessing it's the adhesive that was in the bucket. Probably to an extent there was heavy gases right at the top of the bucket because again, that's
the open bucket.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're guessing there. That I don't know. Mr. Roach then, it goes on, Mr. Roach further testified that he did not read the instruction at the bottom of the label that said read side panels carefully. Mr. Roach stated that had he read the directive, read side panels carefully, he probably would not have read the side panels. Mr. Roach explained, my experience tells me that if it's extremely dangerous, it's going to be in bold print where I can see that. Mr. Roach averred that he would absolutely not have used the M280 in the basement if he had seen the warning on the label not to use it indoors. In summary, Mr. Roach testified that he read the front label, of the container was not warned thereby of any risks associated with vapors from it traveling to distant ignition sources and igniting or exploding. We must conclude, therefore, that his failure to read what has been described as the inconspicuous "do not use indoors because of flammability" warning on the side label did not rebut the presumption that the inadequacy of the label's warning proximately caused the exposure. So the whole bucket says flammable, and on the bottom it says read the side panel. It says read the side panel carefully. On the side panel it says do not use indoors. Right? And they were awarded in this case. So do we have a certain degree of culpability here? Is it a cautionary tale? And we got more to go over, but is it a cautionary tale? Yeah, it is. What's to be learned here is definitely that instructions are there for a reason. That while it may not always be a life-altering explosion, those instructions are there to prevent problems.
Right. It doesn't have to be an explosion. It could be a job failure that can cause you to close your business, can cause you to lose your license, can cause you to lose everything you put into your floor covering life simply because you didn't read the pail. And I think that's the main thing we wanted to get from this today, was that if it's something you haven't used and you don't use regularly, read the label. There's going to be something on there. I promise you, you're going to realize something you're going to do different if you follow the instructions on the way, as opposed to how you would do it without reading the label. If it be the floor flatness, it could be the trowel size used, it could be the open time that's recommended. Those labels are not just there for marketing. They're there for technical support. They have text, and we want to put more on there, but we always run out of room, right? We can only make the font so small.
That's what I was going to say. That explains the small print. And that's part of the case, is the fact that, yeah, there's warnings on there. Flammable will burst into flames, flash fire, extinguish everything. But eventually, if you want to have the real warnings in bold, large print, your actual logo and label is going to be in the little corner in the upper upper side of the label. And it does go into too the fact that Mr. Roach, I believe, was applying the adhesive, and Mr. Faulkner that was there, he never even looked at it because he wasn't doing the adhesive. He was either a helper in helper's role at that point, so he was out doing some cuts and so forth, and starting to do a different portion of the installation. He said he didn't read it at all. He took care of the map before they left, so he didn't even take it off the dock at the store. Didn't have any idea of what was there. And that is another example. And I think, as much as we're getting towards the hour here, if we go right to the end of it, I'm going to read the final decision. Because I thought this was interesting, especially with our views on training and education, right? Okay. In our disposition of the first assignment error, we discussed in detail the evidence tending to show the manufacturer was aware that M280 might be used indoors. In addition, the expert, the plaintiff's expert, testified most carpet installers receive little to no pre-installation training and learn their trade on the job. Mr. Grady further testified that the adhesive manufacturing industry as a whole was aware of this lack of training and experiences. For these reasons, Mr. Grady opined the responsibility of warning the user not to take an inappropriate product indoors rests with the manufacturer. And that was the basic finding of the appeal. So they reinforced again the ruling, the cash settlement to the plaintiffs. But they talked about the fact that installers aren't trained. Manufacturers know they're not trained. So in this case, it's the manufacturer's fault for having insufficient warning. That speaks a lot to what goes on in our industry and how a lack of training is well known. It is understood and accepted. And that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
That's a shame. And that's where I talked to Ken just a little bit about falling on the installers, kind of a police your own sort of thing. We need installers that set the example, get the training, and start talking in a knowledgeable fashion about what they're doing, about what their profession is, about how they do it, and how they are a skilled trade, not just laborers.
Not just labor. Yep. Well put there, Paul. I agree.
So at the end of the day, they denied the appeal. And as much as we like to joke around on the show, what a tragic case. What an absolutely tragic situation. You know, that happened. That manufacturer, as we said, that's out of business. There's some branding out there but that's all changed. That's why we didn't want to go into it too far, because it's not really about the manufacturer. It's not us finding fault with one party or another. It's more a discussion about how tragic it is. I mean, these guys, they spent months and months rehabbing from severe burns. Any amount of money at the end of the day, you wouldn't take it today. No, not one dang listener of the show would take it today if you said, "Hey, I'll give you $5 million if I can burn you up."
Yeah, no.
You know, and ultimately, it was absolutely preventable.
Mm-hmm. And part of their defense was based on no training or lack of training for the installer, and that's just not okay. And that's where we come in, and that's where we want to try to make a difference and prevent something like this from happening.
And manufacturers are out there too. We read that manufacturers offer, hands-on classes that you can go to. Manufacturers, we work with manufacturers. They volunteer their time to come and help us train people when they know darn well they're not allowed to use the name of their companies during the training. Okay. Manufacturers are out there and do care about getting it. A lot of manufacturers do care about getting installers trained. But I think that's where we need some urgency in the installation community to say, yeah, we need this knowledge. We need this. And people that are listening to this probably already know that. Mm-hmm. It's not, if you're listening to this, it's not for the jokes. I mean, there's funnier podcasts out there, that's for sure.
Better looking host too.
We didn't know this was going to be a video until we got started on it and found out we could do it this way. But yeah, so take your training seriously and really encourage your helpers and people getting in the industry to train themselves and to understand that knowing the material that you're using not only could save your life, but it sure as hell could save you money.
That's it.
Day in and day out.
With the invention of Google, you can look up anything that you're getting ready to install. If you've got a new flooring, a new adhesive, a new patch, a new mitigation, whatever it is, mm-hmm. Google is your friend. You can get all the information you need, and if you can't, you call the manufacturers. That's part of being the consummate professional, and that's what we're urging you to do today. Not trying to bring the show down by any means, bum everybody out, but it's serious, and we just want to make sure everybody. When I said it's serious, my phone thought I said, "Hey Siri."
Well, on that note, what you got coming up, Sonny? Where are you going to be at? You just all working, or are you going? You got some events coming up?
No, I think I'm home for a couple of weeks. Gonna head down to ASTM the second week in November. Probably go down to Columbus, Georgia the week before that. Go see my friends at Eagle Floor Covering Supplies. Good people there. And I'm going to try to work from the house.
Oh, always decent to be home with the family for a while. They
Yeah.
usually try to kick me out after a couple of weeks, but
Well, speaking of the family, you know how I throw these shout outs to see if people are listening or watching?
yeah.
I did find out my wife has been watching. And you know how I found out?
How'd you find it? You said
She
something
told
about
me my office was a wreck and I need to clean that shelf off. So before the next one, I will have a clean shelf. I promise.
it. My kids will watch it now and then because they watch nothing but YouTube, so now they think I'm a star. So that's
Daddy's a star.
Dad's on YouTube. So you can reach Sonny 1-877-GLUDUDE 1-877 glue dude with divergent adhesives.
You can give my cell.
The cell number. Do I have your cell? Is that the
407 383 6446. Call me anytime. 407 383 6446.
You can reach me for inspections, expert witness work, floor claim solutions. Paul Pleshek, 920-858-9569. You can reach me about podcasts if you'd like to be on the podcast or advertise. That you can
Always looking for guests.
always
Interesting
looking for
people.
guests.
Yep.
You can email me at paul@floorupodcast.com. You can also comment Floor You Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Check us out on the tube.
Yep. Podcasts, of course, are available on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. So we've got audio and the video on YouTube. We'll be back next week, hopefully Tuesday, and we may or may not have a guest. Do we? No.
No guests next week so far.
So far. So we'll
So far.
announce something, but again, you can get that on the social media or the web page here. Oh, the web page is up.
Yeah, webpage is up.
Web page is up.
FloorUpodcast.com.
Sonny can quit giving me a hard time. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we will talk again next week. See you later, Sonny.
You're going to have to sing your way out. Bang, 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 bang.
Eli.
Goodbye.